Like most indie filmmakers, I also assumed that submitting my finished film into film festivals would be the logical next step after a film is completed. I mean, that's what you do, right? As with lots of other areas of filmmaking, the area of film festival submissions and the festival circuit is a broad one. I won't be able to cover all of that here, nor do I wish to, or do I even claim to know it extensively, even after venturing into it very briefly with my own film. Instead, I will just touch on a few various aspects that surround it and my own experiences of it back in 2020. From the off, before submitting into a single festival, I never approached it with the notion that my film had to win some awards. That would have been a ridiculous approach to take, and it is not why I made a film. My main reasons behind submitting into film festivals were, if we did manage to get accepted by a large and renowned film festival, then hopefully it would help bring some attention to the film and possibly even get a bit of wider exposure. A good run in some festivals might help with finding distribution. It could possibly help the film find its wider target audience. I was also curious to see how we would match up against other films, not really in a competitive way, but just in level of production. And as mentioned, I also assumed it was the logical next step of a final film's life cycle. At this time, the world was in the tight grips of a global pandemic, so I knew nobody would actually be able to attend any of these festivals in person, even if the film was accepted, which ruled out the networking experience and any benefits that might have also offered. I had no previous experience with the film festival circuit at all, and it was very much a case of me having to figure it out as I went along. I mostly used a website called Film Freeway to make my submissions. Straight away I realised that entering into festivals is going to be expensive. Submission fees varied of course, but at the time they usually ranged roughly between £15 up to £100 plus, depending on the calibre of festival. Naturally, the bigger, better and more established the festival was, the more expensive the submission fee. In addition, you also typically had to pay for each individual category that you wanted to enter the film when submitting, rather than paying a one-off submission fee. There was no budget set aside for festival entries, and it was also a case of having to enter them as and when the spare money did become available, and to also accept that not every entry could be into one of the big hitters on the circuit. Of course, the instinct and temptation is to straight away enter into the likes of the Sundance Film Festival, which I actually did, or Cannes, BAFTA and Oscar qualifying festivals, or Tribeca, BFI, the Berlin International, BIFA, the Venice Film Festival and so on. To then cross my fingers that one of these very incredibly prestigious festivals would acknowledge and approve of my film, which in turn might lead to all those things of why I was hoping to enter into festivals in the first place. It was possible, of course, but I soon realised it was unlikely. I considered the bigger festivals to be the A-list, the big hitters, and there was only so many of them I was willing to enter into, even from a financial point of view, let alone a realistic point of view of being accepted. I also wanted to spread my bets by entering into other festivals that I considered to be the B-list and C-list as well. For as much as Film Freeway helped, I started to apply my own rules for what I wanted from a festival prior to me entering it. First off, if it wasn't a household name, so to speak, I would research the festival outside of just purely seeing it on Film Freeway, as that just didn't feel like enough to go on. Some of the things I wanted to know was, ideally the festival had been around for at least 3 years or more, that the calibre of films previously involved was high. I would also do a little research on some of those films separately, that the genre of films was similar to Electrician, as it made no sense to enter into completely unrelated festivals such as sci-fi festivals. I wanted to know that the festival looked like it was going to stick around and possibly even go on to move on and become one of the A-list festivals in the future. I would read reviews from other filmmakers who had submitted into it over the years. Did the festival require premiere status and any kind of exclusivity with a film? which has its own weighing factors to ponder on depending on dates of announcements of other festivals taking place. I'd like to see if the festival had its own audience it could promote films to, and overall that it was a festival with good intentions and it showed respect to filmmakers and audiences. I may not have gotten it right with my submissions and navigating my way through the festival circuit, but I always try to keep these things in mind. There are festival seasons, of course, but festivals can occur on various dates spread throughout the year. Some of the ones that I was most eager to enter were accepting entries, but they wouldn't reveal any more information, such as who's been selected, until months down the line. However, there were other festivals that went against this trend by holding monthly competitions, which I felt provided filmmakers with a better option than waiting for the better part of a year just to find out if they had been accepted by some festivals, who also put you off from entering into other festivals in the meantime because they also insisted on a exclusivity if they did accept your film. But you then might find out your film didn't get selected anyway while you've been holding out. It's all a bit of a tightrope situation with these festivals. I never intended to try with the festivals for an indefinite period, but I was ready to give it the best part of 2020, particularly seeing as nobody was going anywhere or doing anything anyway because of the global pandemic. Electrovision was not selected by any of the bigger A-list festivals I entered, which didn't surprise me, but it did go on to do well at 6 much smaller festivals, which we were all still happy about. I was once asked whether that had any impact on the film's performance after its festival run. I'd say that while having a laurel or two attached didn't hurt, I suppose, the real impact came from getting the film out into the world away from festivals and allowing people to watch it, share it, give and receive feedback, and spark conversations amongst themselves. That by far helped the film more than anything in terms of spreading the word. I would consider entering into some festivals in the future, but I would have to think carefully about whether investing money into festival fees could be better spent elsewhere, such as on marketing or helping to get the word out about a film.